Man, I love getting packages while I'm filming. Welcome back to the Hernandez Garage family. Happy New Year. This is the first video of 2022. Couldn't be more pleased with the growth of this page, and I thank you for your continual support. So as the title says, I'm starting to have some issues with my 2021 Honda CRF300L Rally. But I wanted to touch on some of the key principles of how I go through and diagnose and start to figure out what is going on, what is wrong, what's the problem, okay? So one of the things that rings true for me is I was very fortunate to go through a Ford-funded program many years ago, actually in high school, and we had this really great vocational program and a teacher, really more than anything, Mr. Mash. I appreciate everything that you taught me, and I mean, this is where we're at today because of it, right? It has fueled a hobby, a passion, and even, my current career. And one of the things that he said, I always think of when I'm going through a diagnosis process like this, is start from the simplest solution on forward, right? Take a look at it, get outside of your head, right? Because a lot of times we do spend some money on these things, right? And we don't want to break them. Accidents happen. You could potentially not be looking at this in the right frame of mind. Actually, you guys know that my other business, I am a behavioral health direct support provider. We call it catastrophizing. So there's a good behavioral health terminology for you. Don't catastrophize. Get in there, logically think what might happen, and start with the simplest solution first, okay? So here's the issue that I'm having. I'm starting to get a light wobble in the handlebars at about 65 miles per hour. And then if I continue to throttle through it, it gets worse, so I just lay off and it goes away. But every time, it's pretty consistent right at about 65 miles per hour. Now, my thought process has been to go through and say, you know what, there's a lot of new things on this bike, right? I have panniers on the back, that's adding some weight in the rear. Maybe that's offsetting what's going on. Maybe it's the new Dunlop D606 tires that I've put on this from the factory. They're great with traction, but traditionally speaking, knobbies do kind of funny things on the road at high speed. So I checked the speed rating, it's 100 miles per hour. It should be fine. I checked my chain. We're gonna do another video on that because that in itself is just regular maintenance and you should know how to do that. It's not the chain. And then I thought, well, maybe the rear alignment when I'm back there looking at that. So I did the tool, it's fine from what I can see. And then I got into, what about the front? And here's where it really triggered my memory and I started to remember a couple of things that had happened. So check this out. Boom. So this issue is probably my fault, okay? Looking back at that video, it's a very low speed crash. I was essentially operating above my bandwidth. I'm a new rider and the drone that I was using is not the greatest when it comes to autonomous flight. So I was trying to do too much. I'm new, it was a little section there. My front washed out from underneath me. I stuck my foot down and was already the point of no return, whammo. I hit the side of my helmet. But I think really what we're looking at here is that right side snapped, hit the ground, and snapped meaning just real quick, not breaking anything. And I took a fall. So if you look, superficial scratches, nothing else was happening, and I just gathered myself together and continued on with the ride, not really seeing an issue and was going to reevaluate it later. Brought it home, didn't find any issues. So that brings us to current present day. I suspect that because of that fall, I have a small issue in my front fork alignment. So what are we going to do to remedy that? There's several videos on this from some really great mechanics. If you guys haven't seen it yet, sometimes they call it motorcycle CPR, front fork alignment. Basically, these are principles that have been used throughout, the inception of motorcycles. But one of the things that I really want to touch on as a point of value is that the modern ergonomics of motorcycles and the way that they're machined and assembled and put together is they naturally want to go back to a resting point that is the appropriate ergonomics. So what does that do for us? That creates an opportunity to release certain points on the front forks and the suspension apply this technique, and then it should go back and I should not have that wobble up front. In theory, I don't know. This is the first time I'm doing it. You know, I've done some research and I wanted to put this on this page so you can see just how to be more self-reliant. You guys know that I do work for a preparedness company called Fieldcraft Survival. I'm also the mobility director there in terms of vehicle-based movement. And I think this is a great opportunity to kind of dissect that theory and see if we can fix this little Honda 300 CRF. Dude, I'm blah, blah, blah. What is up? If we can fix this Honda CRF 300L rally, let's get started. I think it's important to note as I'm going through this that I'm not loosening up the very top of the forks. If you loosen up the very top, the forks will just go through and it'll collapse on you, okay? So I have it on a stand. I'm gonna stay away from the top forks, and I'm going to go here in the center and then also up front. We're gonna try that first and then get it out and test it. See, that moved, so that had some tension on it, which isn't a bad thing. We just need it to get back to where it needs to go. I can choose to release pressure in the center up here on the forks, but first, I'm gonna try these ones out, get some compressions on it, and take it for a spin and see what it does. So what I'm gonna do now is get up on here. Try not to do too much up front. You can see it's already, so I'm gonna get up on here. And just like the nickname is called CPR, I'm gonna get in the center and give it some compressions essentially, right? So let's, breathe, breathe. Okay, I think that's pretty good. And what I'll do is get down without touching anything else, and then tighten it up. So make sure you go through and retorque everything. I got a couple questions the last time I did this. These are Tecton torque wrenches. This is a 14mm hex key specifically for the axle here. This one is going to be torqued at 65. Go. And then the forks here will be torqued at, what is this one, 15? Yeah, 15 and 15, and then we'll give it a test run. Also, it's important to note that as I released the tension, the suspension moved, so it was under a load from when I had fallen. So that's probably gonna be it. Hopefully, we're gonna take it out now, test drive it, see if that works. Make sure you follow the owner's manual. Let's go ride. Okay, well, the proof is in the video. I'm super pleased with the results. Everything is tracking the way it should. It's important to know that you do need to follow the torque specs when it comes to tightening these bolts. You can dent them, damage them, then you'll have to replace them and you'll create a bigger problem for yourself. Follow the owner's manual. I know a lot of people like to ask torque specs and whatnot on here. I did mention them as I was doing it, but make sure you're checking that as you're doing it. Also the sequence. Cool? So guys, thanks again. If this is some of the stuff that you like in terms of content, make sure you let me know in the comments. And until then, I'll catch you on the next one.